Hello! Welcome to Why Not Both, the podcast all about how our multiple passions and interests shape our identity and our lives. My name is Pam Schaefer, and I am a musician and therapist in Los Angeles, and I also happen to be your host. This podcast is produced by Laura Studeris, and for this season, we've partnered up with Under the Radar magazine. If you like what you hear, you can hang out with us on social media. We are on Twitter and Instagram at WNB the podcast. And if you really, really like what you hear, please support us on Patreon. We are under Why Not Both podcast. When you join our Patreon, you get a whole bunch of really cool behind the scenes stuff and you get to chat with us. And that's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope you enjoy our interviews. For this episode of Why Not Both, we got to talk with Anjimile, who's an extraordinarily talented musician and lovely and kind person. I hope that you enjoy our interview.
My name is Anjimile. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. My name is Pam.
Radical.
Welcome to Why Not Both, where we have a modicum of social grace.
I always forget to introduce myself for interviews and stuff, and I feel like that's rude, so I'm trying to remember
Oh,
to do that.
well, I didn't find it rude at all at this point. Like, especially it's strange. Like, I don't know if you find this, but like over Zoom or sometimes even over chat, like there's almost this assumed intimacy because you're already in conversation that you're like, of course this person knows me.
Right. No, yeah, I bet. That's a good point. I think my thing is just like, because my name is like not intuitive to pronounce. And then like sometimes I'll like forget to introduce myself, and then like somebody will like mispronounce my name, and then I'll be like, oh, it's like pronounced like this, and they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh, it's okay, like I get it. It's cool.
Oh no.
You don't know how to say it. I'll tell you. It's cool. I'm
Oh,
not like Beyonce. I don't like expect people to know,
will you say it again, because it's such a lyrical name?
Anjimile.
Anjimile. I love that. And that's interesting that you said that, because then not only do you then have to like reintroduce yourself, but then you're managing the person's discomfort around mispronouncing your name.
Yeah, it's usually fine though. I'm like, I get it why they would feel bad, but it's like, it is cool. It's fine. Maybe in like 5 years I'll be too fancy and I'll be like, how dare you? But it's just not. I'm just not. This is not the. It's not the vibe.
What, may I ask of the origins of your name? Because it flows so nicely. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, so it's in Chichewa, which is the native language of Malawi, which is another reason why I don't expect people to like be able to pronounce it, because it's just not English.
Mm.
Let's see. So it's in Chichewa. The specific dialect is called Yao,
Mm-hmm.
and it means denied.
Whoa.
And the lore is that my parents wanted a son, and then when I was born, my aunt exclaimed, "Oh, Anjimile," basically contextually denied a boy. And they told me this story in like the 4th grade when we were doing a project for like, what's the story behind your name? It was like a fun project, and then they were like, so this is the story behind your name. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my god!
I know. I was like, what?
That wasn't even words. I don't even have words for that. I was just like, what?
I was like, WTF, mate. But then over the years, I've learned to really like dig it. I really dig it. I dig the meaning, at least.
Oh,
It feels more spiritually nuanced now that I have like learned that I am trans.
wow.
And it feels like it feels like more meaningful in some way.
I was gonna say, like, what a statement on identity wrapped in your name.
Right?
Whoa.
I know, right?
I was sitting here making like the emoji of like mind blown. Like, Yeah, because a lot of what I end up talking about on this podcast is like our identities, especially when it comes to when we do multiple things and like when we're in multiple spheres. Though over the past year, it's been like, what's our identity when we're not being perceived,
Mhm.
which is a huge
Oh
one.
shit.
Because people are starting to butterfly their ways out of quarantine in the US, at least. Some of them are, where
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like, it's like a new person emerging.
Yeah. That's relatable content right there. Yeah, I'm fully vaxxed and I went to Los Angeles last week for some on business.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very stimulating. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. A lot of energy out here. So
Had had you been to my bizarre hometown yet before that, or?
no. Or well, I had gone to like Redondo Beach for my sister's wedding. And then I was there for like a day for like a random movie thing.
Hmm.
But I hadn't ever like traversed around the city. So it was super interesting, and it was just, yeah, socializing for the first time in a long time with new people was super cool and also very weird.
Yeah. And also, you're right. LA does have a lot of energy, which even when we're all tucked away in our little cubby holes, like there still is just so much energy here.
Yeah. It was it was just so strange to be in a place that isn't Boston because I've just been here for so long. So yeah,
Wow.
it was cool. Yeah, it was definitely a super interesting energy field. And yeah, it was I'm not used to being perceived. So yeah, it was, it was a lot.
Yeah, what was that experience like for you? Like I've been experimenting with being perceived again. Um, and a few days ago, someone yelled at me from a passing car, I love your skirt. And I was like, this is the only cat call that I will accept forevermore. Like,
Yeah. That's that feel yes. Okay, yeah.
yeah, aggressive positive affirmations about my clothing choices.
Right? Just like a
Cool.
nice comment.
Yes. What was
Yeah.
your experience like?
Um it was it was surreal because I went down there to meet with like producers
Mm-hmm.
because I'm gonna start working on another album
Mm-hmm.
this at some point in this life. And so it was kind of my job was to go down there and like perceive others
Oh,
and like get an energy read and see like would this be a potential collaboration? Like can
interesting.
I spend would I be able to spend a lot of time with this person in an intimate setting?
Yes, and do you
Mhm.
trust them?
Yeah, can I trust this person creatively and to a degree like interpersonally and emotionally? Because
Yeah.
recording is a it's an intimate process, and it's not like I need this person to like you know propose to me or like necessarily read my diary, but I do need to trust their creative sensibilities and dig them as a person, at least to a degree.
I
So
completely agree.
yeah, so it was super weird on my detective mission of vibe checking and being perceived in the process. I was like, I forgot I have a body.
Yes.
Sweaty. It's hot here.
Yes, even maneuvering through space with a body is very strange again. Like, did you find I saw one of my friends for the first time in months, and I met him in my place, and like he brought his girlfriend who like I hadn't met prior. And at one point he sat down next to me, which would have normally been like a super normal thing to do because we're
Hmm.
good friends. Like he's my mixer, like we work together constantly. but he sat down next to me and we realized that we didn't remember how to like physically affection correctly. So he tried to like put his arm around me like a hug, but I didn't know what he was doing. And so I poked him. And his girlfriend was just watching us like, what are you doing? And like, we just, like both of us just like malfunction.
Oh my god.
Cracking up. We were like cry laughing. And she's like, so what's happening here? And we're like, don't ask, we'll figure it out. Well, it's fine.
Oh my god. Yes. Yes, exactly. The poking. I think I hugged one person that I met, and then everybody else, we just kind of like made eye contact and like gestured with our arms. And then,
Yeah,
like
you just
started
sort of
talking.
delicately flap at each other.
Yeah, hey. Oh man.
Did you find anyone that you did feel that you did vibe with for your album? Because that's so important, having someone help you like shepherd your songs into being, because that is intimate. It's intimate in a different way than say like someone proposing to you, but it is a deeply intimate process.
Yeah, I think I found a couple of potential candidates.
Excellent.
And so we'll just see, we'll see if it was a love connection and if these folks have time. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
there's some solid options on the table that I'm excited about. So I'm gonna say yes, and it was unexpected. The people who I ended up vibing with were not who I expected to vibe with, and the people who
Mm-hmm.
I realized wouldn't be a fit, I expected to be a fit. So it was super interesting. It was cool. Yeah.
That's really interesting that you're getting to kind of like person again in that way, because you're right, sometimes you see people and on paper, or I guess like on the internet, you're like, oh, that would totally make sense, and then you meet them and you're like, meh. And then it works
Yeah.
the other way around.
Yeah, there was somebody I met who is the producer for my favorite band, and we met, and like he's dope and a cool and a totally, I don't want to say capable producer because he's just fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I realized that he wasn't what I was looking for, and I
Yeah.
was like, I think this fella is actually missing something that I didn't realize I needed in a producer, which is soul.
Mm-hmm.
I need some sort of soulful focus.
Got
I was
it.
like, I don't think this is the man for the job, although he's certainly a dope man.
I was like, on or off record, I just had two people spring to mind that I was like, can I set you up on a producer date?
Maybe.
I was like, why is my brain like this? Right before the podcast, I was chatting with a friend, and then I was like, oh, I should meditate because I usually meditate before I do interviews so I can kind of clear my slate. But a thought
Hell yeah.
came up in meditation. Yeah, thank you. Which was, if I'm rising up, I want to bring everyone with me. Was the thought that came up. And I was like, oh, well, that's an interesting thought. I'll file this away for post meditation times.
I fuck with that.
Excellent.
I think that's just a nice little teardrop of wisdom. Because otherwise, I I don't see I don't see necessarily the point, of rising up unless there's some sort of equanimity and like community lifting involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what I was talking about right before I meditated was that a friend of mine wants to publish some of her writing, and I was thinking of who I could like connect her to for publishing. And she was like, that's so amazing. Like, why would you even think of doing this? And I was like, because your writing's amazing, and like it makes me feel good when my friends are actualizing things that they're passionate about. Like, it was almost like I had to stop and think about that. I was like, wait, like, why wouldn't someone do that? And then I was like, okay, I have to think about it from the opposite perspective so I can figure out why I am doing it. Like,
Yeah. I guess people don't do that. I mean, I guess people can do whatever they want, but yeah, that's nice. I think there's something nice about like making connections if you can, and just like having the thought like, oh, these two folks are amazing, just like the same way you introduce buddies. It's like,
yeah.
oh, this buddy would love this other freak of nature I know. Let's link it up.
Yes, yes. And even like right before we started recording, you said that you were going to play music at a wedding. And I was just like, oh, that made me so happy because that means that people love each other and they want you to sing for them. And I was like, oh, right there. That's like all these connections. And I'm like, yes, yes, I like
Yeah, I'm so excited. I love weddings. I love wedding food. Um I love wearing a tie, and I got all my gear set up. I got a music stand and a portable PA for this gig. I
Yes.
got a fucking I'm writing down lyrics and chords and stuff so I don't have to remember anything. And the music stand came with like a binder. So I can put my music
Oh,
in there, like in laminated little sheets. I was like, what? So yeah, it's
well,
going
that's
down.
convenient.
Oh yeah, I'm feeling so pumped.
I was just
Right?
like, oh, give me one of those. Um, but yeah, being able to kind of like share in the joy in your community. Cause I was actually, when you said that about like essentially like when you rise up, you bring community with you, it's like, oh, how did that manifest in your life? Now I'm like, tell me more about how that showed up for you.
Well, I think every kind of like connection that I've ever made, but especially in music, has been the result of somebody else helping me.
Mm.
So I like to share information with other people as much as possible. Well, so basically, like, I was a music industry major at my college,
Hmm.
and I almost dropped out of college because I was like, this sucks. I was an English major, and then I met a bunch of music majors, and they were like, you should probably not drop out of college. Why don't you just do music if you like it? And I was like, I do like music. So then I switched my major, and I learned a lot about stuff. And I'm actually like, I'm super interested in like contracts and publishing and licensing and
Yeah.
making sure that I understand what's happening with, I don't know, my business basically. And I find that like a lot of information is not publicly available
Mm.
or necessarily easy to understand. And so
Yes.
I like to like talk to my music buddies about like what's going on with like contracts I'm like signing and like what the terms and conditions and like stipulations are and stuff. Um to just like share that information because I feel like there's a lot of ways that people can be exploited, and yeah,
Yes.
there's just a lot of information that's not necessarily publicly available. Like is this like record deal good or bad, or
You're
like is this
right.
publishing deal cool, or like whatever. And so I like to talk to buds
Yes.
about that. I had a nice call with my buddy Roz, who's like in a really sick band called Nova One, and we were
Hmm.
just like trading info because they're like talking to a label, and I have like label information to share, and we were like kind of just comparing notes to make sure things are copacetic, and like I don't want my buddies to be exploited, so if I can share stuff, I do.
That's a beautiful way to be a part of a community because you're right. There's a lot of information that is, I mean, the word that came to mind was like gate kept, but I don't know if you can even put that in the past tense.
Yeah, I think so. It's just, I mean, I think it's kind of not too different from other industries where just like when I was working at an after school teacher, it was like, we're not really like encouraged to talk about how much each one of us is making necessarily.
Yes.
And then once we had that conversation, I was like, whoa, why am I making $1 less than this motherfucker? What the shit?
Oh,
And it's not that employers are necessarily hiding that. It's
right.
just considered like it's just socially considered weird to like talk about it because of capitalism and employers not wanting that information to be shared.
Internalized capitalism.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Ugh.
like, I'm like, oh God, I hate that jingle I just sang. But yeah, because it makes the implicit explicit when you actually then learn that your colleagues are earning more or less than you, and then you start to actually interrogate the systems in place.
Yeah, I was like, that's some bullshit, son.
Legit.
And that job was whack. So
That's a hard job. And to know that like you're arbitrarily receiving less compensation.
yeah, I was like, hold up.
Mm-hmm.
Glad we talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
So in that same way, like before I signed to father daughter, I was able to like kind of have conversations with other indie musicians and stuff who were kind enough to share their experience.
Yeah.
And before I started working with my manager, I hit up like a bunch of just like indie folks who I had never like talked to. I just like DM'd a bunch of people. I was like, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing and I need help. Do you have any advice?" And a
Right.
bunch of people were like, "Yeah. Here's here's how my relationships with managers have gone and here's what's been positive and here's what has not been positive."
Right.
And it was like super critical info that I needed to make an informed choice. And so if I like to give information about anything I've experienced in the music industry, quote, that
Yes.
might help other people.
I think that that's incredibly valuable. I was talking with a lot of people actually last summer about like even about activism in general, that it's almost like a D&D party where you people with different different skills, like yes, you need a tank, but you also need a cleric and you also need, it's
Yeah.
like you need all the different parts, and to actually be empowered, like you need to have knowledge, and that it's not because like every single manager label is going to try and take advantage of you, but you need that knowledge so that you go in on equal footing so that you understand what's happening.
Exactly, because like the father daughter folks are like super awesome, and I got a lawyer and like just negotiated some. She just negotiated some term changes, and it wasn't because they were like trying to put one over on me. It's just because that's how negotiations
That's
work, and I and
literally
I
why
realized.
there's a negotiation.
Yeah, it's like that's what lawyers do. It's like the father daughter had the deal was in their best interest, and I like made it so that it was a little more in my best interest, and then with the goal of getting it equal between both parties.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that, and what you said, I loved that you used the word earlier, copacetic. That's a great word for that word. Neither is a villain. It's more just like how can we work together that we're working in both of our best interests.
Yeah, like I have a buddy who I guess is no longer my buddy who like their way of dealing with other like making like their way with dealing with contracts and like music relationships is to like they have such an extreme fear of being exploited because they have like had such negative experiences in the past, super valid, that
Mm-hmm.
they like frequently end up actually just like exploiting other people and
Oh,
trying to negotiate for like what I would describe as like kind of messed up deals or relationships. And I've kind of always been like, oh, I don't know, man. That seems like weird to do.
yike. Well,
Yeah.
that can sometimes happen where like the thing that we either fear or dislike the most in other people, occasionally we accidentally manifest in ourselves.
Exactly. And they've been like legitly traumatized by some whack shit.
Yeah.
And so it's a bummer that that cycles of trauma
Yep.
and stuff
Yep.
perpetuate through our
Uh,
bodies and our actions and stuff when unaddressed or unrecognized.
yes. And that, oh, I was like, that hits. Um,
Mm.
yeah, especially like we're all coming out of a period of, I don't know how to describe it other than like I was talking to another person yesterday that we've around the world been playing lockdown hot potato, like crisis hot potato, where it's
Mm.
like we're coming out of these cycles of trauma, and that currently things are going well in the US in regards to that. But
Yeah.
to acknowledge, like we were talking about earlier, of even being perceived by other people and practicing our perception, Like we're coming out of like a kind of strange trauma.
Yeah, it's messed up. I saw an article title, but did not read it. Want to make that clear. I was like, people aren't. It was like people aren't addicted to masks. They're like traumatized.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm gonna. I don't. You know, I'm gonna keep wearing my mask. If there's other people around because I don't not want to because I'm scared, and that's just how that is for me right now.
Yeah. And like it's okay to have feelings about it. It's okay to not like feel comfortable with that yet. Like for me, that was too abrupt of a shift to just be like, well, I heard something this morning, so guess I'll change my behavior that I've been doing for the last 15 months.
Yeah. That being said, the one thing I have changed is like I like to go cycling. It's my
Yeah.
favorite thing to do, and I've been cycling unmasked, and it's been pretty amazing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, I can like breathe in and out and stuff.
Oh my God.
It's
Went
so
from-
dope.
Yes. I went for my first mask-free hike, and so I feel you on that I hadn't realized just how much I enjoyed that.
Hmm.
Where do you
Breathing
like to
fresh
cycle?
air.
Right?
Um, I like to cycle around the Charles River and down. I don't know if it's not downtown Boston. It's between Boston and Cambridge, and it's
Hmm.
like I don't know, maybe 20
Oh,
miles.
wow.
Between 14 and 20 miles, depending on how I feel like doing it. But yeah, it's great. It's a great trail. It's just like it's a bike trail that's like away from the cars because there's like a highway around the
Yeah.
perimeter, so that's great. I'm like near pedestrians, so I'm like able to go fast. And then once a pedestrian is nearby, I like chill a little bit. And then when there's no
Mhm.
pedestrians, like go super fast. And it's like, wee! So yeah, it's super fun. It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing to do. Period.
Oh, that sounds so beautiful.
It's been a nice pandemic activity to be like.
Yeah.
It's been freeing, even whilst masking cycled. I like to hope that it's like improved my lung capacity or something. I don't know. I made that up, but I don't know.
I mean, I'm with you on that. I did feel really like powerful when I was going up the hill sans mask. I did go faster. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Like, yep, yep. And so I'm like, I don't know the science behind that. It might have been placebo effect, but like, I
Yeah.
definitely,
I
I
fuck with
felt it.
that placebo. I dive into the placebo. I'm
You know
like,
what? If you fake it till you make it and you're in the faking it, but you feel like you made it, I'm not going to question it.
yeah, I'm a big fan of like the benign placebo. Like if it I'm just yeah, if it makes me feel even better, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm so glad this worked. Hooray! What a change.
We made it. Oh, that even pinged in my brain from when you were talking about switching from an English major to a music business major when your friends were like, maybe stay in college. It sounded like you did like make a switch that actually did really work for you. But I was curious, like, had you been interested in music prior to that, or was that just a like what happened there?
Well, I've always had a love of music and like in a list as a listener, and I've just always loved singing. I grew up in choir in
Mm,
school, and when I was in middle school and high school, I kind of started. I became like a music historian for the music I was interested in. So I like got really into punk
hmm.
and pop punk and ska, and then I got into like jazz. I just wanted to explore as many genres as possible to see what I liked.
Oh wow.
So I got into like metal a little bit too to see if I was into it, and
Hmm.
bumped some Megadeth. I actually do like Megadeth, but besides that, not really my thing. But I like punk metal. And then yeah, I got into like jazz and Duke Ellington and stuff. And that was in conjunction with like I used to be super I got super into old movies in the 8th grade.
Awesome.
Because I saw It's a Wonderful Life on like ABC or something, and it made me cry so much.
Oh,
And I decided it then kind of changed my life a little bit. Because I think I had depression in high school and middle school. Yeah, I definitely did. And that movie made me feel some sort of like hope that perhaps it was a wonderful life. So then I started watching. I watch all of Jimmy Stewart's movies,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got this one movie called Anatomy of a Murder, and Duke Ellington is in it. So then I started listening to Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong and like Glenn Miller, because Jimmy Stewart also is in a movie called The Glenn Miller Story.
Wow.
Um, so I was super into that shit for a while, and then in high school, a friend of mine who I now recognize was a hipster introduced me to indie. She like made me a mixtape, and I was like, wow, this is dope. And then I started listening to like, fucking Neutral Milk Hotel and shit.
Mhm.
So I've always been like a lover of music, a purveyor. I got super into Animal Collective, who I still love, and Vampire Weekend and all that shit. And then I started writing the summer before I got to college because I was grounded. For like drinking all my parents' alcohol.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yeah, I'm sober, and I was not at that time. Little kid, just kind
Yeah.
of working through my addictions. And anyway, yeah, so I drank all my parents' alcohol, and they were like, hmm. So I was grounded for that summer, and I, couldn't have the car. I couldn't like hang out with my delinquent buddies. So
Mhm.
at that point, I had been playing guitar for a couple of years, and I just started writing because I kind of had nothing else to do. And then once I got to college, I started playing at open mics,
Mhm.
and I used to do like a cover of like "Say It Ain't So" by Weezer and maybe some other shit, and people like liked it, and I was like, oh shit.
Hmm.
And I started playing like original songs, and people like liked that too, and I was like, huh. And then I met this guy named Eric at one of the open mics, and he was like, you're amazing, we should jam. And I was
Mm.
like, totally. But really, I was like, I don't know how to do that actually. Um, so then I met two friends who I would consider like two of my like musical soulmates
Oh.
at maybe a party or an open mic or something, and we had a series of like jams together,
Mhm.
um, wherein we I don't know what happened. I would describe it as a spiritual experience,
Hmm.
wherein my buddy explained the concept of modes to me,
Yeah.
and then it made me able to jam. It like unlocked my relationship with my guitar
Wow.
in a critical way. And then we like recorded all of the jams. It was like 3 nights, and
Mhm.
we just wrote music together
Mhm.
in a very lockstep. Like it was just something I had never experienced, and I was like, "Whoa, I think I do this now."
Yes.
Um, and that's kind of that experience coincided with my increasing lack of interest in my English major.
Got it.
And I was also just like drinking a lot and smoking a lot of weed, and like not I just started caring about school less and less, and the
Mhm.
only thing that I was able to give any focus or attention to was music. And so it kind of became like a so yeah, it was kind of like my only choices then became like drop out or change to music, because I was like, I mean, I stopped going to class,
Yeah.
um and I just like really stopped giving a shit. And so I just, I changed my major without telling my parents.
Mhm.
And then I told them, and they were like, why did you do that? And I
Right.
was like, I wanted to.
Yes.
And I think I needed to. And I think I would have dropped out of college otherwise, because I just, with my English major, I was like turning stuff in late and getting good grades, and that just actually made me feel worse.
Yep.
And I was like, I feel like I should have to try. And it was just
Yep.
like demoralizing. So, and I could see everybody else like they seemed to be learning about things that interested them, and I was like,
Mhm.
what am I doing here? So then I switched to music, and it changed everything. And
Oh.
and I started learning new shit, and it was great. And I like took a songwriting class, and that was awesome. I took like a fundamentals of music class, and like we talked about whatever like rhythm and tonality and a bunch of other shit, whatever. And it
Mhm.
was awesome. And I was like, I get to do this for school?
Yes.
And then it became fucking awesome. Yeah.
That's, I love how you described, by the way, I don't know what to
What's that?
call it. I loved how you described what it's something that I would maybe describe as like, oh no, gifted child, where it's like you're naturally good at
Mm.
certain things. And so therefore they're actually not that interesting to you because they're not challenging. They're not novel. There's like, you're like, oh, well, I turned this in late and I didn't even try and I still got a good grade. And it almost actually feels more depressing.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I love I've always loved writing and poetry, and I was like an English class kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like me and my English teachers, we just like loved each other, and I just loved like Shakespeare and fucking Thoreau and all that bullshit. I actually really liked it a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was passionate about writing, and my passion for writing remained, but my interest in the subject matter waned. And I just thought that my English professors, I thought I wanted to be an English professor, but my English professors were really pretentious and boring.
Yikes.
And one of my professors was just like, just a gross part. I mean, just thought he was like a gross. Like he was always like, like making like
Ew.
nose noises. I think he just had like a nose thing.
I was
But
like, did he have some sort of like nasal problem?
yeah, I think he just had a nasal issue. But he was just like, there was only one right answer in our
Oh,
analyses
what?
of literature. Yeah, exactly. And I
That's
was
not how
like,
literature works.
hold up. If I wanted one right answer, I would be in math class, which I
Yeah.
hate. Um, so
I
that
was
shit,
like,
we were all
what?
just like, what the fuck is this, man? Like, come on.
No.
Like, even if the answer is off base, can we like talk about it? You know? Isn't that what analysis is? It was just like um there was no flexibility in our critical analyses of the work that we were studying, and it was like Keats and Yeats and like I don't know, Ozymandias and shit and like long ass poems.
Yep. Yep.
And I was like, really? There's nothing more than what you're saying in this long ass poem? Like there's really nothing more to get out of this fucking 20
Nothing
pages.
more here.
So yeah.
Like you were talking about even as a teenager, like kind of looking for parts of yourself reflected in film and in music and in different things. And it sounds like you were seeing none of yourself reflected in in the experience you're describing here.
Yeah, my teen years were constant, you know, it was I was always just looking for me and finding pieces of me in music and literature and film. And yeah, when I didn't want to I didn't see myself in this work, and I didn't see a career that would bring me any sort of joy at all. And the prospect of spending the rest of my life doing something I hated, it felt it felt like a trap. It felt
Yeah.
like something I had to do, and that was rough. Because in college they're like, you need to know what you're gonna do for the rest of your life at age 19, and I was like, oh shit, I don't know, man.
Like I have no
And I'd like to tell my younger self, actually no, it's cool. It's actually cool. Like
idea.
you can figure it out. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that.
Yeah, we don't often give ourselves space to figure it out. And also, like, some people are given more space, obviously, societally than others to kind of explore and be like, oh, well, what do I want to do? Whereas other people are just like, oh my God, no, you have to figure out right now.
Yeah, and like my parents are Malawian immigrants, and they immigrated to the U.S. in the 80s. And my dad's a
Mhm.
doctor, and he got a medical degree in Malawi, and then he came to the U.S. and got another one.
Oh, wow.
And my mom's a computer programmer and does like code and shit.
Yep.
And so they were like, you need to get a real job here. We are doing stuff. We're doing real jobs. And they were like, okay, professor's a real job. And they were like, musician, not a real
Not a
job.
real job.
And honestly, in retrospect, I get it. I could
Right.
see why they would be concerned about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, trust me, I'm really good at it. And they were like, And I think that that's also valid because I wasn't really. And it's been funny now with this like indie career to be like, when my debut came out, I was like sending my dad like, check out this NPR interview and this Rolling Stone piece and like this Wall Street Journal thing, and he was like, oh shit.
Yeah, he's like, oh, this is legit.
He was like, these are national publications. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm good at this. I do
Yeah.
this now. This is my job.
Yeah. And that overlay of, especially, I was thinking about that, like the difference between coming from, say, a family that's in the entertainment industry, or like, a family that's been here for generations, things like that. That's a very different experience than your parents are like, no, we came here and really had to put so much intention into what we're doing. Like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you're like, did we invest all this time for what? Like,
Yeah, exactly. And like, the entertainment industry is unclear. I think
yeah,
unless you have experience. They're like, how could you possibly like what are you talking about? Like Britney Spears? And I was like,
right.
no. Just an indie artist making a living, building a career, touring, and I mean, and then I had to figure. I was like, wait, actually, how do I do this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's what I've been figuring out for the last like I don't know since like 2017.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that you're framing it that way, because I think that a lot of people, when they're saying, oh, I want to be a musician, people do think of like the Britney Spears, or I don't know how many people have asked you, like, oh my God, have you tried out for like The Voice? Like, you really should, like things like that, where people will say things like that about being a musician because their image of a musician is like the two people that they hear on the radio. And you're like, there's like so many other ways to be a musician. Like,
Yeah. I even when I was younger, like I've always had like a vision that has been vague, and it's been getting more specific as I get older. Cause I remember my parents being like, "You should try out for American Idol," and I was like,
mhm.
"I don't want to sing someone else's songs." And I was like 12.
Right, right,
And I was like, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do, but I know that I don't want that. And I was like, also, I don't want to be on TV,
right.
you know? And like, those things are still true.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as I learned more about music stuff, I could like tell, I was like, I feel like these people are being exploited in some way, and I'm not interested in that.
Right.
I was like, I don't want to sign a weird contract. Like age 30. Because I was learning about like, like I was doing my music history and learning about like Elvis's manager and like
Yes.
all of these famous people getting fucked over. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want that.
No, no. And like the fact that then, looping back to what you're saying, that you empower other people with this knowledge so that people can have a music career, because we do live in a society where we do have to currently make money to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, how to actually help people do that? Because yeah, you could have fame, but it's almost like that meme of like, awake, but at what cost? Like,
Yeah, I've just always kind of been like, at a certain point, I think it was like when I started listening to Sufjan Stevens and like
mhm.
the eighth or ninth grade, and people in my car would be like, "Oh, do you want to like be famous?" And I was like, "I want to be critically acclaimed." And that was what I decided, and I I have been thinking about fame actually lately, because like on the off chance that would ever be a possibility, I've been trying to figure out what would be the actual benefits to that
Yeah.
for me. Um, and I've never been able to figure out what they would be. And
Hmm.
I think that's why I have not as great an interest as I possibly could have.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, say it's like Bieber, you know, people like come to his house and put cameras in his windows and shit.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to bother me.
Right.
And I still don't want to be on TV because I don't want my physical form to be perceived.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm getting used to it, but it's not really like I'd rather not unless it's. I get really uncomfortable at photo shoots and stuff. Now, I'm working through it. It's cool, but it is not. It's not intuitive.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, if in this capitalist society, what I need is money, and fame doesn't necessarily grant that.
No, it grants something
So,
else entirely.
so if people are just looking through my windows and shit, and I'm broke, I would be really pissed off.
You're like, this is actually a plethora of things I do not want.
Yeah, so if fame was in some way able to help relate to like my financial security, then that would be um s- something to consider. But I don't know,
Right.
you know. Like I was reading an article about how Kim Kardashian was like talking about how she wanted to be famous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that makes sense. She's like very pretty and rich.
Yeah.
So
What else are you gonna do?
yeah, that sounds cool. I get that, but it doesn't feel like that makes sense for me. That doesn't seem to relate to my reality. So,
And you were saying,
and it does.
yeah, go on.
Sorry, no, go on.
When you were saying like about, people like observing you in a way, whether it's on TV or people pursuing, pursuing you or even taking photographs of you, it pinged also in my brain. It's basically how my brain works, is like a little galaxy of pings.
Sick.
Right. What you were saying even about your name and how you were initially perceived even coming into the world. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot to reconcile.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's another potential benefit to fame is to just being perceived by people who are like me, so that queer black people can be like, hey, there's another one.
Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, I didn't see that anywhere.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it, I didn't, I, father daughter introduced me to the artist Beverly Glenn Copeland,
Hmm.
and I didn't know that he existed. And I was like, are you telling me there's like a black trans, like alternative artist who has been making music for like 50 years? Where the fuck, what?
Yeah. You're like, why did no one tell me? And you had done a deep dive in a lot of different kinds of music.
Yeah, and yeah.
Yeah.
So if some sort of if my relationship to fame would I like I don't know, yeah, visibility I think would be kind of tight. And that's kind of why like my
Mhm.
records have my face on them and shit.
Yes.
Um I had a music video for a song called Baby No More, and it's just like me dancing for the whole song
Amazing.
and being a weirdo. And you know, I it's not like I can watch that video. I'll die. It is
Yeah.
so embarrassing. And it makes me so embarrassed.
Yeah.
But it's like cute and sweet. I watched it once. I was like, this is so sweet and cute. And
Yeah.
look, there's black joy. Like I want people to see that. And I especially want black people to see that. So, you know, not all heroes wear capes.
Yup.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Oh my gosh. No, that's struck in me. I was reading Pleasure Activism and reading some of the essays in that about like just embodying and empowering yourself by experiencing pleasure, because that is what we are denied. Um,
Mhm.
and so even just that you made that, even if you can't watch it yet, even you watched it the once, which I'm like, oh, good work. Um, but knowing that you made that and knowing that other people can then witness that joy and maybe find a spark of that in themselves, because that's important to see. Like when you don't see that in the world around you, it's hard to imagine that you can embody that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like, I don't need to watch it. I was there.
Yeah.
I had a good time, and that's kind of how I feel about my music too. Once, once the masters are in, the track list is set, I don't need to listen to that
Yeah.
anymore.
You
I
already
made
did
it.
it.
I don't really want to. It'll make me feel embarrassed or self-conscious, but when other people, are like, "Hey, this has meaning for me." Like I get a
Yeah.
lot of really sweet DMs from queer folks and queer and trans folks and non-queer and trans folks. So we're like, "Hey, your music makes me feel like I can exist." And I'm like,
Oh,
that's literally, I couldn't imagine. That's a result beyond my wildest dreams. So, yeah.
that's beautiful. That's so much more powerful than any kind of fame that we're talking about. Like that kind of an impact when you connect with someone and they feel that it's okay that they exist in the world.
Yeah, I did an Instagram takeover for Cave Town,
Mm-hmm.
and like a lot of his fans are just like baby queers. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've like gotten a bunch of DMs from like, the youth who are
Yes.
just like, "Thanks for being trans." And I'm like, "You're welcome. Go
Oh,
ahead, kids. Like, go ahead."
yes. Yes. Oh, yeah, like I think of my friends that did transition when we were younger, and there really weren't people to look towards because it was like, okay, well, you can transition now, but what happens to you later? What does this look like? Not right now. And so seeing my friends that are now in the community that are like, like in like their late 30s and early 40s and things like that, where it's like having representation to be like, oh, because so many people, I don't know if this happened to you, but so many people were told that it was like a phase or that it was trendy. And I was like, what? Like, I remember being so baffled by that reaction. Like when my friends came out as trans, that like people would be like, it's a phase. I'm like, who would put themselves through this phase? What on earth are you talking about?
Yeah, so my mom is just fully homophobic and transphobic, and I don't have a relationship with my parents right now
Mm.
as a result. And like, yeah, I remember her like, it's just like stuff like it being a phase is just too foolish for me to like stomach. Like, I just can't. It's like I don't even have the energy to roll my eyes at it. It's like that just doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense, does it, brother? Does
No.
it? And it's like it's weird and like it's
Yeah.
and even if it was a phase, what would that have to do with like that the announcement of that realization? Like
Yeah.
maybe for some folks it is a phase. Like I don't know. Someone is allowed to have a phase, and also someone is allowed to announce something without it being characterized as a phase. Like GTFO. This is
Yeah,
weird.
like why punish someone for exploring themselves?
Yeah, people are scared of other people being themselves. I think.
Yeah,
I think
that.
in the case of my mother, I felt she's like super religious, so I
Mm,
think she perceives my identity as like a threat to hers.
oh, I'm so
And I'm
sorry.
like, it's I I'm not sure that I am. It's kind of been better not to have her in my life. Well, no, it definitely has. Yeah. I'd just rather be who I am.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I talk about being trans in interviews and stuff, and well, I appreciate it and I understand it. Folks are like, "Yo, you're like so strong for like being queer in public," and I'm like, first of all, thank you. Secondly, I'm not. I guess I do have a choice, but like I've lived the other choice, and it's
Yeah.
untenable.
Yeah.
It's hellish.
Yeah.
And I fully believe that, like, before I got sober, my life was a living hell because I made it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just like in the throes of addiction. And now,
Mm-hmm.
as a sober person who is like happy and queer and trans and like whatever, who knows what's gonna happen later. Um, I feel like if I had the capacity to like make my life a living hell, then I have the capacity to make it heaven.
Mm.
And there's no hiding in heaven. There's nothing to hide in heaven.
Oh, I love that. I was like, I have no follow up. I just want to sit in that.
And like, I don't want it to seem like I'm like fucking enlightened or anything. I have issues. I have issues, and they are, I have therapy, I got a sponsor in my recovery program. Like, I have a support system to help me so that I can, like, just keep moving forward in this world with
Yeah.
compassion and empathy and, like, at least a modicum of self awareness.
Well, and I think that it's important to recognize that no one does this alone. There's a support crew and there's no shame in a support crew. If anything, like I encourage people to both have a support crew and be a part of someone else's support crew.
Yes. It is an honor and a privilege for me to be able to like show up to support my friends today, just because I remember when that was something I did not have the capacity to do.
Yeah.
And it feels nice to be able to be like, yeah, bro, like, I got you. Like, you want a glass of water? Like,
Exactly.
we're gonna figure this out, son.
We're gonna get there.
You're gonna get it,
Yeah.
bro.
Because showing up for other people, like in a way, it's for me at least, it feels sometimes as good, if not better, than showing up for myself. Like showing up for myself is sometimes harder, frankly.
Oh yeah, that's something that took me a long time to realize. That helping other people feels great.
Yes. Yes. I encourage people when they're scared to reach out for help. I'm like, but then not only one, you get help, but also you give someone else the opportunity to help you. And that feels really awesome when you're able to help someone and you can see that you've like been a part of affecting change. You're like, oh, this is great. Like,
Yeah, therapists must love that shit when their clients grow and they're like, yeah, yeah,
can
I
I
see
tell you,
you.
can I tell you a secret?
Sure.
My day job is that I'm a therapist.
Cool. Why is that a secret?
I don't know. Because I was like, you have not met me before. Um,
Got you, got you, got you. I thought you were gonna say something buck wild. I'm gonna be honest with you.
that's hilarious.
I was not sure what was about to happen.
Surprise! I'm a compassionate person professionally.
But yeah, no, go on.
Yeah, I started doing therapy as like an adjunct to music stuff because it's like sometimes I make money making music and sometimes I like don't. So I was like,
Yeah.
well, I like teaching people. I already did that. I did tutoring and stuff. So I was like, oh, well, I already know I like helping people and people just tell me stuff. So what else can I do? So yeah, started on that path. And over the course of the pandemic, I now have literally like a team of therapists, which is crazy. Like I never anticipated that I'd run like a group practice, but it's been
Oh my
amazing.
god.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. Like I mean, there's, for lack of a better way of saying it, there's a great need for mental health care right now. Um, and so, and there is only one Pam. Um, so I now have an awesome team of therapists. But yeah, like it is really cool to see what happens throughout clients' experience. And like it's so sad because like there's a few of my clients that like that I'm terminating with to actually pass on to some of my associates that have like different specialties and different stuff so that I can then like supervise more and things like that. But there's this feeling, even as a therapist, like terminating with a client, even when it's like the appropriate time, because you're like, I am passing you on to the next person, and or I am setting you free into the world, where you're like, well, but I'm so invested in the story now. Like, look at how much has changed. I want to know what happens next. Like, oh my God, we got to do so much good stuff together. Like, it's like It's really exciting seeing like where someone was and where they're going. So like, yeah, I mean, maybe there's some therapists that like aren't stoked on this, at which point I'd question why they're in the profession. But like, but yeah, that was a really long way of saying,
Oh.
yes, therapists do get really excited when they can see change in their clients and when they see growth and when they know like that they're part of that. And even though it's bittersweet to be like, fly my birds.
Aw, now I'm just feeling super tender about my therapist.
Oh,
She's really clutch, and she's been helping me like through my indie journey
yeah.
and like helping me realize that like my life is shifting in a
Yeah.
huge way now that I'm like an entertainer
Yeah.
and I'm beginning to experience like I would say like maybe material success and
Yeah.
opportunities that I never thought would actually kind of be real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been so nice.
I'm glad that she's there to hold that space for you because since she's outside of the music industry, and outside of any sort of personal involvement in your development, other than just like that she's your therapist,
Yeah.
um, that's really beautiful because there is a lot of identity that's tied into the art that we make. And then when that gets rolled into like opportunities and then relationships and then changing roles in society, that can be a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's why I like my girlfriend is she's a mechanic
Mm-hmm.
and she's like a music lover, but she's like not at all a hipster
Uh-huh.
or an indie person in any way, and it's really so dope. Um to just have that as a reminder that like this community there's just it's just one of many communities. Like when my debut came out, I was like, God, babe, like I'm waiting for this Pitchfork review. I'm so stressed out. She was like, what the fuck is that? What did you say? What did you call me? And I was like, oh my God, you're right. This is stupid.
Oh my God. Yes. Ah, the almighty pitchfork reviews. That's like literally sometimes I'll be working on stuff with my friends and like one of us will say to the other, like, so what would the review of this be like on Pitchfork? And we'll make up like imaginary pitchfork reviews for like what we're actively working on.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're like it sounds like the ambiance of a late 1930s bathtub, but is seen through the eyes of a prehistoric barista.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Or like I don't know if you've ever worked with anyone that has been reviewed on Pitchfork and then they like get angry about their reviews on Pitchfork because that's really fun.
Yeah. My yes. Yes.
It's like a rite of passage to get through like remembering even, hey, why am I making stuff? Like, the end result of this is not a Pitchfork review.
Yeah, it was a big like mirror pep talk moment. Like, hey buddy, what are you in this for?
Exactly.
Why do you make art? And what's the deal? What is art your whole identity? Is it your whole life? And the reality is no. I do not want art to be my whole life. Or my whole identity.
Nope.
It's a part of my life. Cycling is my identity. My bicycle is my life. Okay?
Oh, I love that. That's like the perfect note to end that on. It's just so you know, plot twist. Bicycle is my identity.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. You've been so generous with your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so
time.
welcome.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of Why Not Both? If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like us and subscribe to us on your preferred podcast platform. You can also come hang out with us on social media. We are at WNB the podcast, both on Instagram and on Twitter. This season, we are brought to you by Under the Radar magazine. Under the Radar is a nationally distributed print, music, and entertainment magazine and website. You can find them at www.undertheradarmag.com and feel free to support them on Patreon. Extra special thanks to our producer, Laura Studeris, who is literally a rock star. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you next episode.